People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, both of our guests we have on tonight have been on the podcast before. We did an interview separately, about both of them. And tonight, we're going to talk to them about their joint venture they have going on called the Houdini Museum. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's Dick and Dorothy. Hey, guys, how are you?
Great, how are you?
We're really fine.
We are, we're kicking it over here. We're having a good time. Got to play with a lawnmower today, so that's what I've been doing. I'm not good at fixing things, so that's about all I had going on today. And so far, the lawnmower's won.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing about lawnmowers, you know.
That's all right.
I think they have built-in obsolescence built in, you know. It works for a while and then poof.
Well, see, we have hiking trails, half a mile of hiking trails in our backwoods, and I have an old beater lawnmower because I run over roots and stuff. So I said, I'll fix the blade on this thing, and that'll be my beater one that I can run over roots and stones with. I changed the blade. Everything's great. Now I can't get it started. So Natalie has a brand new lawnmower for the yard. That's enough about lawnmowers, though. Guys, how's everything at the Houdini Museum?
Everything at the Houdini Museum is the same as it was before March last year.
Yay!
It's all there.
It's all there. Nothing's happened to it. But did I see something that you're taking reservations for when everything's over?
Thought that's what you meant.
Yeah, we're not taking reservations yet. But we
Oh.
are telling the audience that it'll probably be available in September. That's when Broadway is announcing that they're going to be open. And so
Cool.
I think they know more than we do. So
Okay. I was saying yay because I thought you meant it's running like it was before March of last year. I was like, oh, that's awesome. But I get it now. It's just all still there.
it's all there, right?
Yep.
Sitting there waiting for something else to happen.
That went right over my head.
So tonight's episode is all about Houdini and the Houdini Museum. How long have you guys been involved with the Houdini Museum?
Well, we had a collection in New York City, and we had a place called the Magic Townhouse on 61st and 3rd Avenue in New York. And when the rent went to $30,000 a month, we couldn't afford that. So we had to find a place that we could. We started looking to rent another place, and we said, "Well, this is stupid because the landlord's just going to do it again. You know, they raise the rent until you cannot afford it anymore, and then you're gone, and you only get a lease for like 5 years, 3 to 5 years in New York. They don't want to give you an extended lease ever.
A maximum is 7 anyway.
And so we thought we have to buy a place or we're just not going to be able to do this anymore. So we couldn't afford in Manhattan. We looked around New Jersey, Brooklyn, Bronx, all over, and everything was way out of our reach for buying a building. And then we said, all right, well, let's find something within driving distance and try to find a place that has connection to Houdini because we'll stick with the Houdini theme and the magic theme. And so Scranton, Pennsylvania came up on the map, and we said, all right, well, let's look through the real estate in Scranton, PA, and see what we can find. So we called, this is funny, we called the real estate agents, and nobody would see us because it was Thanksgiving week was coming up. And they said, nope, we don't have any time to see it. Nope. We're taking the time off. We're with families. Nope. And then hunting season, we can't do it. It's hunting season.
Oh,
so,
weird.
Right, this is hilarious. Nobody wants to sell you a house during Thanksgiving week. So we called a guy in Clark Summit. He said, listen, you come the day before Thanksgiving. I'll give you the MLS books. You'll look at the stuff. If you see stuff you like on the day after Thanksgiving, I'll take you guys around. And then after that, I can't see anymore because I got to go hunting. And so it worked out. We did find a place, and it was a wreck of a building because we didn't have any real money. So we bought what we could afford. But
they didn't even want to show us the place.
Yeah, they said, well, that place is spooky. Are you sure you're interested in this? we said, well, number one, it looked like it had a high ceiling, and that would be perfect to put a stage in.
Right.
That's hard to find in a lot of places, you know?
Yeah.
And so it looked like the fact that it was affordable was a big win for us. And then the fact that we knew that if we didn't open right away, it would be fine. So we took our time repairing it and redoing it, and we took a whole year to redo it with construction workers working every week, all that whole year. And finally, it wasn't ready, but it was ready enough to start something. So that's what we did. So since 1989, we've been in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
It's in the a tourist region. It's called the Pocono Mountain region.
Okay, yeah. I've never been there, but I've heard lots about the Poconos.
Yep. And 2 rooms were ready, but the third wasn't ready, but that was okay. We didn't need the third room right away.
So how do you have it broken down? You have the museum, you have the stage room, and what is the other third room?
Well, we have it set up so that when you visit the museum, the audience all starts in the theater, and we show a short video in the theater with rare film footage of Houdini, and then take the audience on a fun guided tour through the collection. They first go into the one room, which we call the history room, which takes Houdini through Houdini's life from beginning to finish, from being a child all the way up to the end of his life. And then the next room is my favorite room, which I get to do, and that's the prop room with lots and lots of props and posters and pictures and memorabilia. That's where we have Houdini's the picture of Houdini's mother and father from his home in there, and several things that are just so precious, you know. But everything there kind of really tells the story about Houdini in a way that you haven't heard before, because we go more personal than you would read in a book, you know. And so it's pretty cool. And then back into the theater they go, and then we put on the magic show, and that show is it features myself and Dick, and it is including the beautiful doves, a duck, two ducks, a rabbit, a poodle, all magically appear throughout the show. And at the end, we even get someone up from the audience, float them in the air, pass the hoop, and float them back down. So it's quite spectacular and fun. So they're there about 3 to 3.5 hours.
Wow.
I say 3 to 3.5 because a lot of the audience doesn't want to leave at the end.
Wow.
They
Well-
want to hang out and stay, hang out and chit chat after.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
and probably look around some more too. I mean, because there's only so
Yeah.
much you can show on tour, so there's a lot that you have to skip over. Because I know I've seen pictures. I mean, that place is jam packed full of memorabilia.
It is. It's a smart. As museums go, like when you say museum, you think of a big, giant marble building, spacious and all that. We're not that. It's a small space, but it is, like you say, jam packed. You are going to get to see more of a collection than you would in actually most museums. They usually put one item in a sign explaining it, and then another item in a sign, and there's like 20 items in the one room, and that's not us. We are jam packed.
Yeah.
I don't know how many items. It's like really, if you look at the Houdini.org, our website, you'll see some indication of what it's going to be.
Well, we're going to have to schedule a vacation for the Poconos and come visit the Houdini Museum on one of our days out there. That would be fun.
That would be lovely.
We'll let you know when we're heading that way.
Yeah. I'm serious.
Always
That would be
call
fun.
first.
Yeah, I definitely.
always recommend to people, if they're listening, to not just show up. They should call ahead of time, because I will tell you the truth, because we don't have a huge space, we do sell out a lot. And if a group happens to be coming that same day that somebody wants to come, then they get turned away at the door, and it breaks our heart, because all they had to do was call ahead
Yeah.
and find out and get tickets. Plus, if you get tickets ahead of time, it's discounted. So that's the best way to go, always, wherever you're going, if you're going to our place or any place.
Absolutely.
So you guys don't only run the museum, though. I mean, you guys live and breathe Houdini. And I didn't give you guys a proper introduction at the beginning. Guys, you're listening to Dick Brookz and Dorothy Dietrich, in case you don't know. They are the owners of the Houdini Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania. You guys also take care of Houdini's grave. I mean, tell that story about the disrepair and you guys bringing it back.
Well, several years ago, I guess, what was it, 2011, actually 2010, we were sitting and talking about Houdini, and the idea came up about Houdini's gravesite and the fact that the bust, there's a beautiful bust, lifelike bust of Houdini on the top of his memorial at his gravesite. And that was destroyed in 1975, and it's never really been replaced. So we said, you know what? My whole life, ever since I'm a kid, when I first saw the fact that it wasn't there, I would ask my elders, magicians. I'd say, why don't we take up a collection? If everybody kicks in $10, $20, we could probably put this together and get it. And they'd say, nah, you're just throwing away good money. They're just going to break it again, blah, blah, blah. And I just, you listen to your elders. Oh, UK, I don't know. I apologize. There's a phone call from the United Kingdom trying to get through.
They're trying to make reservations. You told them to call.
Probably. They're at the door. Can we come in? And so it's interesting. I could not get anybody that my whole life that would agree that it's a good idea to replace the bust. I said, but he's a legend. But he's our legend. If you're a magician, he's your legend. I mean, how many people have a career where there's this person that is somebody that everybody in the world knows, even though he died in 1926. When you ask somebody, name a famous magician, they'll say Houdini.
Yep.
Before they say a living magician.
And they probably never saw him. For sure they didn't.
Well, they couldn't have seen him.
Right.
But still, that's who they mentioned.
And so we said, you know what? If we don't do something before we die, it's probably never going to happen. Just never going to happen. And in the meantime, before that, whenever we were going into the city, when we were in the city, we would go and with just a hand whacker, and chop down the weeds, because at one point there was nobody taking care of the annual care. That's all being taken care of now. And but then we'd go and there'd be weeds everywhere, and also all kind of debris at the gravesite, because people go to visit and they think it's clever to bring a little clever magical tchotchke, some kind of little thing to, that they were there. And that's okay, but then the next guy brings something, and the next gal brings something, and then another family comes, and now all of a sudden it looks like there's a heap of stuff there.
When we went there, it was like 4 business cards of magicians laying around, and it was just, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is weird, but they think that it's okay, and that's the way to honor somebody that's passed. And it sounds good in your head, but it's not good if you're not going to pick it up later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the wind just blows it. It doesn't stay there. The wind's going to blow it, and it's going to become trash, and it's going to get wet, and it's going to,
As soon as, the weather at night, even if it doesn't rain, you'd still get the dew at night, and it's going to turn into garbage. But sometimes we go there, and there are literally whole decks of cards spread all around the whole thing.
Wow.
Like that's a good idea. So we said, all right, let's figure out how to do this. And we knew that if we asked the management of the cemetery if we could do it, and they said no, then if we did it, we'd be criminals. And if we asked any of our elders, anybody in charge of any magic organizations, if we asked them and they said, no, you shouldn't do it, then we'd be like disobeying what, the elders said. And so we figured, you know what, we're not going to ask anybody. We're just going to do it like we're the good guys going in and doing a nice thing for a good guy who became legendary. So we had a bust that was on display at the Magic Townhouse for a while. And when they needed to take it back, we got suspicious that the guy that was asking for it was a little on the shady side. So we said, you know what, we're out of town, we can't do it right now, but here's what we'll do. We'll see you in a week, and when we come back. So we went to the university in New York and asked if anybody knew who could make us a mold of this bust. And they did. They made a rubber mold. But now, like 20 years later, that we took the mold out to work on that. We thought, oh, we have that mold, we can just cast it, and it was garbage. So, but we knew the size it would be. It had the right sizing and the exact shape of where everything is supposed to be, but the features were not good. So I took a sculpting class, and we both took molding classes, how to make molds and casts. And so it took quite a while to do it because we wanted it to be perfect, Mm-hmm. And once we got it together, we had another couple of guys that we confided in, and they helped us out. The one guy's like a MacGyver person. He can build or fix anything, And so he learned how to do the physical work, drilling holes. We had to drill holes in the memorial, in the granite, because what happened is one time we were there visiting the gravesite, and we had a sample of the Houdini bust. It was a makeshift, excuse me, a makeshift model because we were doing a run through. So this guy came walking up with 4 people. He was doing a cemetery tour. And he was a local guy. He says, hey, what's going on over here? So we told him who we were. We're the Houdini Museum. We're replacing the bust. And he said, wow, it's beautiful. Yeah, wow. He says, I was here the day that first one went down back in 1975. And we're like, what? And we had decided that everything we do, we're going to videotape it so that, how people can be, humans can be mean-spirited. And we said, everything we do, we're going to record it. Anything that happens, we're going to record every ounce of it. So if somebody says you did this or you blah, blah, we'll say, no, watch the video. This is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And this is exactly who did what. So he said that was in 1975. He said that was when angel dust was popular. And this is just such a coincidence that he came at that time when we're there, right? Mm-hmm. He says, yeah, angel dust was the thing. And those magicians, they used to, every Halloween, do this, they called it a hoodoo voodoo ceremony, the broken wand ceremony.
Yeah.
And this is a ceremony that magicians do for their fellow magicians to honor them when they've passed. And so every Halloween, the local magicians would go on Halloween and do this broken wand ceremony. Well, unfortunately, they really were mistaken. Instead of just going and honoring Houdini in private, they decided that they're going to do a big publicity campaign, and they got it in the newspapers. They got TV crews coming to record it, and so it became a popular thing on Halloween. So not only were the magicians there, but there were like dozens of locals that showed up in costume on Halloween for this ceremony, and they'd wait until the magicians were done with their hoodoo voodoo ceremony, and the magicians would leave, and then the locals would come in, and this guy said, yeah, they'd bring their booze and their drugs, and they would party till the next day.
Oh, goodness.
And, yeah. So he said, but this went on every year. And he said that that one night, there was this one guy that was all hopped up on angel dust, and he says, that makes you feel like Superman, and like, we don't know, we're all nerds. We had 10 of us there, and we're all nerds. We don't drink or smoke or do drugs, and so we don't know about these things. And so I said, just listen, and I pointed to the guy with the cameras, make sure you get this on video, and so he said, yeah, the one guy, he said, I'm the great Houdini. And he started running around and yelling, I'm the great Houdini. And then jumped up on the memorial and started pounding Houdini's bust, popping it. And it had a little bit of action. apparently, and then he started wiggling it and really popping it hard, and then another guy said, let me get up there. So he gets up there. Now the two of them pop it around, and sure enough, one, it had two pins that were holding it in. One broke loose from the epoxy, and the other one snapped, and the bust went down behind and smashed on the sidewalk behind it. So that's the real story about what happened to the original bust. And so we said, all right, that's a good lesson for us. We can't allow any movement on the bust in case that they try to do it again all these years later, you know.
Wow.
So we decided to have 3 pins in the bust. And so we ended up doing that. And that's a long story. You could do a whole podcast just on that one. Because they did stop us along the way. They showed up when we were there working on it and said, okay, whatever you're doing, you got to stop. And so that's
the cemetery. The people that own the cemetery didn't like you working on it.
Well, here's the thing. We didn't ask. So
They actually didn't know.
they didn't know.
Yeah.
One of the guys that works for the cemetery pulled into the driveway. He was driving by and he saw all these people there, like with our equipment. We had to bring everything. We had to bring water, and they didn't have any electric, so we had generator and water and all of our
9 drill bits.
9 diamond drill bits for the bust to put in the granite. And we took out $3 million in insurance just in case anything would happen.
Oh.
And so it was a fun project. So the guy pulls in the driveway and he jumps out of his car and he says, I don't know what's going on here, but whatever it is, you got to stop. Everybody's got to stop. I don't know what you're doing. So I go up to him real polite and I said, oh, hi, are you with the cemetery management? And he says, yes, I am. And I said, oh, we've been trying to get a hold of you. And so, yeah, I introduced myself and showed them the signs. We had, we didn't tell anybody, but we did ask the Houdini family if it would be a good idea. And they support everything we do. They know we have goodness in our heart no matter what, you know.
Right.
So they said, yeah. He said, you've got our blessing, and I hope it all goes well.
And they gave us a letter.
And so they had a letter that we could present to anybody that was...
Yeah, that's probably most important right there, that the family's behind it, you know? Even more than the cemetery.
Yeah.
So
the cemetery management, there was like a long... they didn't just say okay. They made it really tough. And then eventually gave in and said the son of the management of the cemetery said, this is a beautiful thing, it belongs here.
So is this sculpture bust that's on top right now, was that carved by Dorothy Dietrich?
It was it was sculpted by me and then cast into the what it is right now. So
wow.
I sculpted it with modeling clay and then made a mold of that, and then that was cast.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
So do you guys sell busts since you sculpted it? You guys don't sell busts? I want one for my magic room.
You want one?
What do I have to do?
That's probably a good idea because we are totally broke right now. We've been closed since March of 2020. And so, yeah, that might be a good sales pitch, we should say.
Dude, a duplicate bust that's on Houdini's grave. You have the duplicate of the exact one that's on his grave right now. That's pretty awesome.
It is awesome.
Just remember, give me a discount because I gave you the idea.
Okay. You got it, buddy.
So, besides the Houdini's grave, you guys also had one of his movies remastered. You brought it to the Magic Convention. It was a silent movie. Tell us about that, how you dusted that off and saved that movie.
Yeah, we had a friend of ours that we knew since we were kids, both of us, and his name was Larry Weeks, and he was from that period. He knew Houdini's wife. And the story is, and we don't know if it's the truth or a story, is that he was friendly with her and she gave him some Houdini items. We don't really know the truth because it's not been documented, so I don't know. But anyway, he had...
His story, every time you talk to him, he kind of changed his story. It was always a little bit different.
Mm.
Yeah, so, we kind of just... we had seen that he had some old Houdini films. And the one film we didn't realize until like somebody told us that's the only copy of that film. And we said, well, geez, that's crazy.
Nobody even knew there was a copy.
Why wouldn't he make copies of that so that it's available? And so we begged him our whole life, begged him to sell us the film or make copies, sell us a copy, and let's get it out to the world, you know. And he'd say, no, I really like having it, you know. It's the only one, and it's kind of cool that I have it. I said, okay, that is cool, but do you have a copy of it in case anything happens? If there's a fire in your apartment and that thing goes up, wouldn't you be heartbroken if that happened? And he's like, well, I don't know. And then, so that we offered to pay to get a duplicate made. You don't have to tell us where you got it. Just tell me how much. We'll trust you, and you'll have a copy. But you have to put it in another location than your apartment. And if you want to make two copies, one for your apartment, one for someplace else, and we'd be happy to hold on to the other film with the idea that we do not have the permission to show it unless you tell us. And he kept saying, oh, yeah, well, I don't know. And then several times he actually said he was ready to sell it. And so he asked a bunch of money for it. And we said, okay, we're coming over. And whenever we went to get it, he'd say, you know what, I think I'm going to keep it. I can't. I really like having it. So I'm going to. So now at some point he turned 95. And he was starting to break down his health. And of course, at 95, everybody breaks down. And we said, you know what, if we don't try and get that film, who knows what's going to happen? Because number one, if he dies, his apartment could get ransacked.
Right.
Anything could happen. The landlord could toss it all. He actually had about 60 canisters of old film in that apartment. And I don't know if anybody knows what all was there. I think Fred Patella might know, but it's sad. I don't know if they still exist.
I just had a magician friend of mine die locally, and he was in a nursing home and, had a slow death. And every time I went to his house, there was no answer. I'd leave gifts on his doorstep. I called, no answer in the answer machine. But I didn't know he'd went to a nursing home. It's the whole COVID thing. And
Yeah.
once he died, all of his magic, all of his stuff, they were just giving to handyman or whoever came over because he had no family. But I know he had a Blackstone light bulb, and what does the family see to that? Well, this light bulb doesn't work, and it's trash. And it makes me sick because how much of his magic got thrown away?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And how often does that happen in general with magicians? Magicians have a pile of stuff that to the average human, it doesn't look like much.
Right, and they have no idea. I mean, look, what does a light bulb in a display case look like? He didn't even have it in a display case. He just had it wrapped in a cloth on a end table right before you got to his bedroom.
Yeah, of course.
So he didn't have it in a display case. It didn't say Blackstone's light bulb or anything. So
yeah, that would have been a treasure, huh?
It made me sick. But anyway, go ahead.
So we did convince Larry that it was a good idea. How we did it was we made a partnership with Turner Classic Movies, who does the film restoration.
Wow.
And so they made a deal, and we said, you know what? We want you to make your arrangement with Larry separate from us. I don't want him to think that we're somehow benefiting from this deal. We don't want to know how much or whatever the deals are, but we'd be happy to help you throughout the restoration, but we don't want to be a part of the sale from him to you, And that's the only way they wanted to do it. They had to take possession of it, and they did. And they did a beautiful job restoring it. When they looked at the restoration and what a good film it is, they decided to hire a professional musician to write a score for the film because it's a silent movie, and so they did that, and they loved it so much they decided to feature it as the finale of the Turner Classic Film Festival in Hollywood that year. And
Wow.
The saddest part of that whole thing, it's a beautiful story, but the saddest part is what's his name, Larry Weeks, gave it to the TCM in June. He died in September.
He never got to see it.
He never got to
Yeah.
see the film. It was either September or October. He
Now,
died.
was that the Grim Game?
Yes, The Grim Game.
Okay.
And it's a lovely film. It's got a fun story to it. And Houdini is featured, and it's just wonderful. He does escaping during the movie.
Now, can you get that on DVD or anything now, or can you only?
No, it's not available. It is, Turner still has it. What we didn't realize early on was that their mission is to restore film, but not to sell it.
Okay.
So we still have a big job of trying to convince them to either to sell a copy of it to us for reproduction, and whatever we have to do, and maybe we have to do a GoFundMe to raise the money to do it. But I think it should be available to anybody who wants it whenever they want it. That would be ideal.
Well, and at this point, it's almost 100 years old. So,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. You would think it would be public domain at some point, even though they restored it. And
Well, yeah, they own, when you change something, it's now your art.
it's got new, yeah. And they paid
That's
people to
what's
put
better.
music under it, yeah. Wow. All right, so I'm going to play a game with you, and this is hard, but you said that guy that was 95 years old, what if his apartment caught on fire? What if? So, Houdini Museum is caught on fire. You get an item, and Dick gets an item. What are your favorite items with all of your collection? What are you grabbing? You only get one.
Tough.
Well, I'm trying to make it fun.
I'll tell you what, there was one time when we had a hurricane came through. What was it? Hurricane, what was the name of that?
Well, I
anyway, you would not believe it. The hurricane ripped half of the museum roof right off. Just
goodness.
Oh my gosh.
gone. And don't you know, we had friends and neighbors and family, we were just bagging everything up, getting it out of there. So what went first? Houdini's mother and father's pictures from his home.
house.
Wow.
And the book that Houdini wrote called A Magician Among the Spirits, which is a 300-page book which documented his whole story about how he felt about the spiritualists, the people who were claiming to communicate with the dead. And he did research on them for 30 years. The introduction to that book, he says, this is not a study of a few days or weeks or months, but one that has spanned over 30 years. And in that time, I have not found any spiritualist that has savored of the genuine. In other words, he only found hucksters and people
Right.
who were common people. And
Or
then
people who were just wacky.
he found some people who were just deluded. He called them deluded brains, that they think they have some kind of power, but they talk until they finally get something right, you know.
Yeah.
But they're not. Those people were not charging any fees for their services. The ones that were making a big scam out of it, they were wealthy, and they still are today. If any time you hear about a spiritualist, somebody communicating with the dead, go online and look them up and say, put their name in and say net worth, and they're all worth more than $1 million.
Good Lord.
We had one, I don't know, within 30 miles of our old neighborhood, and they were on the side of a busy road, and it said palm reader, and they kept getting nicer and nicer cars in the driveway. Then they had like a Lamborghini, and they were getting their house. They added another floor to their house, and their house kept getting nicer and nicer. And then you saw the FBI there, and you saw like a tractor trailer taking away all their vehicles and everything, and the house was foreclosed and everything. And then this paper, in the newspaper, expose said everything that happened. They were telling people that when they came into wealth, when they came into money, you're supposed to give it to the psychic, and she's going to bury it in her yard to help get rid of the spirits for 15 years. And then it'll cleanse the cash, but it has to be cash. It can't be a check. It has to be cash.
Yeah.
And she did that to enough people and tried to do that cleansing process that they finally got the FBI involved. They're in jail. That house is
Yay.
foreclosed.
Do you have any of that material, or at least like the dates and where? And
It was
when?
in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I can Google search it for you and send it to you.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yes, we should have that documented.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
very neat.
my mom was really into it, and I would try to talk to her, and it was like, talking to a wall. We had a friend of ours who was talking to us, and they believe in going to psychics and all this, but they don't. They don't. I'm telling you, people go to them in health, wealth, and romance, and that's when they take you, because you want health. You're desperate. You're sick. You're poor. You need help. You have nobody in your life. You're at your lowest, and they're taking advantage, and it makes me sick.
It's sickening.
Yeah.
And you know what? The thing is, they are the easiest prey is someone who is grieving a loved one that's passed.
Yeah.
There is absolutely nothing that they won't believe or want to believe. And we had a guy, when we had the Magic Townhouse in New York City, somebody came up to our little shop. We had a little magic store up there. And he came up and asked if we had the prop where you have a jar, like a jar of water, and then some bloody substance magically appears in the jar. And I went, oh, well, what show are you working on? Because we had a lot of Broadway theater groups come in and ask for special effects and stuff. And TV shows. And so I thought he was doing a show or something. He said, no, I just was just curious. And so I said, did you see somebody do that? And he said, well, yeah. I said, all right. Did you go see a medium? Did you talk to somebody who was a psychic or medium? He said, how do you know? I said, because there's a thing that some of them do where they ask you to bring water from your home, and like if you go to them with the idea that you think there's a curse on you and you want them to lift the curse, they will tell you that they can find out if there is a curse around you, and you just have to bring in the water from your home. Well, first of all, imagine this. New York City, we all got the same water coming through our pipes
right
in New York City. Okay, so all right, it's municipal water, but it worked for this guy. So I said, and then they put you on the table. He backed up and he said, how do you know this? How do you know this? And I said, okay, you tell me what they did. Does it sound like familiar? What I'm talking about? He said, yeah, they laid me on the table and they opened my shirt and put the jar on my stomach and then just waved their hands and prayed, and then the bloody substance appeared and they all backed off like I was possessed or something, like there was something, demons in me or something. And so they said they could help me, but I'd have to cleanse the curse. And how to do that is
cash.
They got to bring in. He was going to the bank to bring $10,000 from the bank in bills. How they told him to bring. And I said, and did they tell you to wrap them up and rubber band them and then wrap that in newspaper? He went, how do you know this? I said, because it's called the Gypsy Switch. And this, unfortunately, was before the internet. There was no searching for this,
right.
Unless you could find a book in one of these, an old book about it. And I said, it's just a classic switch. They tell you exactly what to bring and how to have it presented. And then what happens when you get there is they will put a beautiful scarf on the table, and they will put they would say, I don't want to touch it. You put the package on the scarf right on where the star is, and you put it there. They lift the scarf. The idea of wrapping it up, and when they lift the scarf, they grab your packet and then put their packet on the scarf. Their packet goes in their lap. They wrap the whole thing up, do a bunch of prayers and do a bunch of incantations, probably burn some incense, and then tell you to take it home and put it in your freezer for 3 months. Don't touch it. If you touch it, the curse is going to come back. And so he said, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I said, well, here's what I want you to do. If you would do it, please. Let's get the FBI involved. You'll go, and like they told you, you will go with the package the way they wanted it, and you'll bring your cousin, who is actually an FBI agent, and then you'll do the thing, and at the end of the whole presentation, when they give you the packet, the FBI agent will open it up right in front of everybody. If it's wrapped paper and no dollar bills, they're going to get arrested, and you get your money. And he said, oh, I don't, he couldn't even talk. He was breathless. He said, but the problem is they know everything about me. I've been talking to them for a while, and they know where I live, and I don't know why let me think about it. Well, I didn't get his number or name, so I couldn't find him anywhere, and he left, and I never heard from him again. So it's tragic, you know.
Well, I mean, and that might be just a gypsy switch. Might have been what this lady was doing, but it was something about burying it. Maybe instead of putting it in your freezer, she was telling people to bury it in their yard. So when they went back 3 months later, they dug it up and.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. In New York, you don't have your own backyards.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. So that's what this lady was doing in Charlottesville. Crazy. If they just talked to a magician, we could make them wise.
Yeah. We had one woman come in that she looked kind of like if you were going to cast a gypsy, that would be what you would look for that person in a movie, you know. And so she came in and she was buying up we had a pack of matches that when you light the match, it turned like a little black snake comes up here. I don't know if you ever seen that.
Yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
And
so like what they sell at fireworks stands.
Yeah, so she was buying them, and somebody told me, well, you know what that is? And then I said, yeah, it's like those snake matches. I said, no, she's using them to convince people that that they have a demon in them.
That they're cursed.
Wow.
The person that they're working with has got a curse on them, and they can help them with their curse, you know. So we were sold out for the rest of into infinity. We never sold them again.
That's crazy.
Get out of my face, lady.
Yeah, that's crazy. So getting back to Houdini and Houdini exposing all these people, and you said that was his favorite, one of your favorite things is his book and him talking about exposing 30 years of research.
Yeah.
And what little...
that book, by the way, is autographed by Houdini, and it says, "My brain is the key that sets me free."
Mm-hmm.
Signed Houdini. Did you have another favorite thing?
No, I guess that book is my favorite.
Wow. So in other Houdini folklore, there was a book that came out a while back that said Houdini was a spy and that he was using his celebrity to get in because he traveled all over the world and met with all these different people.
Yeah.
And what is your guys' take on that?
All right. It's real important to know that back in those days, if they caught a spy, they were dead. They didn't go on trial. They didn't say, well, okay, let's arrest this guy and question him. No, they think you're spying. They even think you're spying. You get killed. And so Houdini was a good patriot. He would, if he knew something, he would say it. But he certainly wouldn't go snooping around, as a spy. And he wouldn't have gotten invited into places where that kind of information would be accessible. He mostly went to theaters and did his shows.
They just put that in the book because they were hoping that it would be a reason to make the book into a movie.
It does sound great, though, doesn't it? Can you imagine, like a superhero? Houdini can escape from anything and can sneak into places, magic knowledge, all that stuff. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
The truth is, he was a really cool guy.
Right.
And the things that we can honor, there's so many things to honor him for. When the war was going on, he actually signed up to go into the military, and he was too old. They turned him down. So he took a year off to help sell war bonds. and did shows for the American Red Cross. He also worked with the Naval Department, teaching underwater survival techniques for our Navy, and taught our soldiers how to escape from handcuffs and jails, and in case they got captured.
The ones that were going to Germany.
Wow. Now is this This is World War One?
That was he died in 1926.
Yeah. I just didn't know if there's another war prior to that.
Well, there's one after that,
Wow.
one and two, but
that was World War One.
And that's just a few of the things. When he found out, like as he was traveling the world, when he found out that an entertainer was in bad straits and out of money and needed help, he would send them checks every month.
Amazing.
And send them money to help them out.
Or grieving widows.
Yeah.
Magicians.
That's something that pulls at my heartstrings too, because as much as I love my wife, if something happened to me tomorrow, I'm looking at her and I'm like, I hope, you gotta take care of these widows out here, Yep. That's a great thing. So anyway, how about this? How about how Houdini died? There's he got punched in the stomach by that kid that was really a Golden Gloves boxer. There was a book that came out recently that said he was poisoned by one of these gypsies or one of these psychics that he exposed. And then the movie said it was his water torture cell. And then everybody else said it was his appendix rupturing and bursting, and that was just natural causes. What do the experts say to all these theories?
Isn't that great? All the great stories about Houdini.
It's part of his legacy.
The funny thing is, a lot of them go in books. Like these are published books about historical books. And so I'm going to let Dick tell you this story because he's the expert on this whole bit. No, about J. Gordon Whitehead.
Yeah, well, J. Gordon Whitehead, we pretty much believe he was in league with the people who wanted to see Houdini dead. So
the spiritualists.
Yeah, the spiritualists.
At the end of Houdini's life, he was constantly writing notes, postcards, letters to people all over the world. And at the end of his life, in 1926, there were a lot of the things that he was writing, and he would sign it by saying, "This may be the last you hear from me. The threats are getting stronger." In other words, the mediums were threatening him to stop, or we're gonna hurt you. And so now, Jocelyn Gordon Whitehead was the guy that went backstage, and it's kind of a long story, but the short of it is that he came backstage and asked Houdini. Well, he told the people backstage that he borrowed a book from Houdini so he could get backstage. And that sounded right because Houdini had books with him all the time, and he did loan out books. So maybe that was true. And
we don't really know.
No way to know. So he gets backstage, and instead of, what would you ask if you get to talk to a legendary magician? You'd say, "Tell me what's your favorite trick," or "When did you get started in magic?" Right? No, this kid started asking him about religious questions. What do you think about the miracles of the Bible? And Houdini was like, "Well, I produce a lot of things that some people would consider a miracle, and but it's just magic. It's just theater." And so then he asked another religious question, and so Houdini didn't know where he's coming from with this religious questions because he was Jewish, and he doesn't know what this guy is. What's he trying to find out? What is he doing?
Right.
And so he skipped it and said, well, he started talking about his physique and how prepared he is for the show, and he's got to practice and blah, blah, blah. So the guy says, "Oh, well, do you think you're strong enough to take a punch to the stomach, a blow to the stomach?" Well, Houdini said, according to the other two assistants, witnesses who were there, they said that Houdini said, "Well, if I brace myself, yeah, I could probably do that." And so the other guy, Jocelyn, all of a sudden just started punching Houdini, blow after blow after blow, really brutal, trying to hurt him.
He didn't want to kill him, but he wanted to teach him a lesson.
And so it didn't stop until the other two students pulled him off and said, "What, are you crazy?" And so Houdini didn't say anything about it. He just thought that maybe the kid misunderstood, and maybe you don't really know in that case. So, of course, he had really bad pain in his stomach. He just got attacked, and he didn't know. They found later that he died from peritonitis, and basically that means he had to be sick with peritonitis before.
We think he already had an appendix problem and didn't realize it. And then because he was punched and he had pain, he thought the pain was from the punches and didn't come to the realization, which he normally would if he had pain, that he should get checked with the doctor for his appendix. So he ignored it.
So who was this Whitehead guy? Was his family psychic, medium? Does anybody know anything about him? What was his motivation to do damage?
No, but they later found out that he was friendly with a couple people that were in the spiritualist field. So some people think it might have been purposeful. Again, not to kill Houdini,
but to warn him, to lay off the spiritualists.
Yeah. Wow. It never ends. But the poison thing isn't too far off either. I mean, if he's being threatened and he's writing letters to all these people saying, hey, I remember when that book came out a while back. I can't remember what the name of it.
That was a favorite method of the spiritualists.
Just to go ahead and poison somebody.
To poison them, but I don't think that was the case, but you never know. Could be.
Wow.
It's too far away that you can't find out.
You can't do an autopsy or anything.
Well, they were talking about digging him up for the book and the promotion.
That was part of the same guy that came up with the Houdini was a spy thing.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
He decided this would be a good publicity thing because that will go in the movie and blah, 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 and I'll be able to, So, when they started talking about that, the entire Houdini family were they were horrified. Like, is it possible? Can they just do this without our permission and blah, blah, blah? Well, it turns out that in the Jewish faith, you don't exhume a body. It's not, you don't go back and test the body after you're buried.
Right.
So it wouldn't have happened, but it doesn't mean that they didn't go through anguish about it.
Yeah.
But I think it was a publicity stunt so they could make more attention to it.
I don't think they even expected it to happen. I think they just thought it was a real good story.
Yeah, it was a good publicity stunt.
It sold books and it got them on television and press. Yeah, totally get it.
Yeah.
So what about other magicians at the time? I've heard that he had a lot of enemies at the time. Other magicians may be jealous of his success, or what do you guys think about that?
I wouldn't say enemies. It's just like in any career, you have people that move up in the ladder, and you're kind of like moving sideways, and they're moving straight up. It doesn't mean anything other than that's what's going on. You never know what's going to bring you success. You've got to be good, or you're not going to be successful. And the truth is that Houdini got every report of any of his shows. He was getting standing ovations every show. But in the meantime, and he didn't have a huge show most of his life. He did the Metamorphosis and he did the Escapes and some magic. But honestly, he would probably do, an 18-minute set?
That's what they did in those days, 16 to 18 minutes. They didn't do a full evening show like some of the big traveling magicians would do what they call a full evening show with, like they would say, 18 mostly beautiful girls. And they would have,
that's funny.
There's one poster we have that says from Blackstone Senior, and it says 50 mostly gorgeous girls.
That is hilarious. Yeah. It's easier if one leaves. You can kind of, you'll do. That's nice.
She's good enough.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, guys, thank you guys so much for doing this tonight. I learned so much, and I love Houdini as much as you guys do. I'm sure you guys love Houdini more than me, but I mean, loving magic since I was 7 years old. I mean, you go to the local library, that's the only books on magic we had was 3 different biographies on Houdini and a book from the 60s about how to make your own magic out of cardboard, construction paper, and Scotch tape. So that's how I got started in magic. So,
well, the good thing about Houdini and the whole Houdini story is he is a great role model. He's not just a legend just because he was lucky. He actually everybody should study his career, and the main thing is, I think if he teaches us anything, it's that have something that you believe in and you're passionate about, and go for it and do that. And I tell young people all the time that, you know what, you have to decide when you're young who you are, what do you like, what do you want to be, who do you want to be, and then do that and find out. Now you have such a great advantage. You have the internet, you have YouTube, you have everything in your head. The libraries are jam-packed full of all kinds of information. Find out how to do what you want to do, and then look online and see who does it, and see if they have an internship, see if you can be a part of it, and make that happen. Make your life happen. Houdini left home at 12 years old to seek his fortune. He didn't know it was going to be a magician, but he fell in love with it, and he just went with it.
And during his career, he was always thinking ahead. What would be the future, and what would be his image in the future? He always planned that way, which a lot of people don't do. But he always had his eye. I guess his eye on the sky. It was pretty incredible, and it worked.
And the other thing is that every day of your life, you are writing your own biography. So if there's something like, say, if you look at yourself in the future, looking back, if there's anything that you wouldn't want written about you, that you did or said this or that, then don't say it, and it won't go in the book. So, write your life story the way you want it written. And if you don't want something in the book, don't do that.
That's perfect. That's awesome. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for doing this. Like I said, Dorothy Dietrich, you can find her podcast. We've already had her on here before doing her own biography of running away from home as a little girl. And Dick Brookz, and celebrity poker player, blackjack player. That check out that podcast. That's pretty amazing as well. Thank you guys for doing this with us again, all about Houdini. Houdini.org. Where else can we find about your place, the Houdini Museum?
Well, yeah, the Houdini.org is the main place, and there's a fun thing that we did, which is Houdiniopoly, and that you can find at Houdiniopoly.com, and it's a board game that's all about Houdini. It's exquisite, and it's a very collectible
And you'll learn as much about his life as you will practically if you come to the museum, because his whole life story is all throughout the game, and each time you play and you get a different card, you learn different things about Houdini, or you land on a different spot. It tells his whole life story as you go around the board. It's really incredible.
Well, so for everybody listening, Houdiniopoly is for sale. Check it out. Buy one from Dorothy and Dick. And you guys stay on the line, because we're going to wheel and deal for a bust right after this podcast.
And then if you want to find out about Dorothy, you can always type her name into YouTube. You can also go to DorothyDietrich.com, DickBrookz.com, Houdini.org, because it's a nonprofit, and you can find out lots more.
You guys are awesome. Stay on the line, guys. I got a plug real quick, and then we'll be out. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Tonight on Jewel TV, they're airing episode 5 from season 2 called Lana Starts Illusion Rehearsals. Natalie's pregnant with twins. She got so big she couldn't fit in boxes. We had to figure out something, so we put Lana in boxes, and she did pretty awesome. Check it out. It's tonight on Jewel TV. See you next week. Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Express Copy and Graphics. Mention promo code Wes Iseli to get 10% off. Their website is expresscopy.com. That's XPRESS-COPY.com. They do it all. Copies, banners, signs, vehicle wraps, promo items, Practically anything you need printed, they can do it for you. These guys are great. Check them out. Check us out online at wesiseli.com and patreon.com/Wes_Iseli for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled Wesiseli.